You've entered Bookstorm. Your favorite authors are here to dive down deep into their best-selling books. Stay tuned to brave the storm.
Welcome back to BOOKSTORM Podcast, listeners and readers. I'm Kristen Civiletto, one of your hosts, and with me is Julia Noel Rose. And this is a very special episode for two reasons. First, because it's our 200th episode, and we're super excited about that. But we're also very excited because we are sharing it with one of our absolute favorite authors who's been on the show before. And this is how I'm going to introduce you with your title. New York Times bestselling author, playwright, television writer, producer, podcast host, filmmaker, Adriana Trigiani. Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, Kristen, that's the best. I can die now. That's going to be read at my funeral. I'm so happy to be here with you and Julia Rose.
Oh, my goodness. We are just thrilled. And, you know, our listeners are tuning in from 102 countries and territories, all 50 states. And it's because of authors like you. So we're so grateful you've come back on the show. You were here 2 years ago, and we had an absolute blast. And you also settled a family dispute that I got to tell our listeners about. In my family, I'm Italian. My grandparents had these various words that we thought were Italian, and, you know, we used them. But it turns out some of them actually were probably made up and weren't actually Italian until I saw one of them in one of your stories, and that is a moppine, a dishwash.
A dishcloth, everybody, a dishcloth. And also, like, you wash the car with it too. It's like old feed sacks that you bleached and starched. They're like cardboard, and then you put them in the soap and you scrub. You know, that's a moppine. But I can't believe it. It's real in your family.
I took pictures of your books and sent them to everybody just to make sure we all enjoyed that. Now, I want to tell our listeners a little bit about your background because you've got such an incredible career and so many important things that have affected people all over the world, not just through your books. First of all, we mentioned that you're a New York Times bestselling author, but you've got 21 books of both fiction and nonfiction, which is pretty cool. Your work's been published in 38 languages all around the world. You are an award-winning playwright, television writer, producer, and filmmaker. And in fact, your very first novel was one of the movies that you directed, Big Stone Gap. And a lot of people know you from that movie alone, which is pretty cool.
That makes me so excited to hear you say that. That's what you hope. That's what you hope.
You absolutely do. And you've been awarded other very prestigious awards, including the Star of Italy, which is a very long name in Italian. And the Library of Virginia gave you one of their highest honors, the Patron of Letters degree, in 2024. You also are a recipient of the 2025 Ellis Island Medal of Honor for your incredible contributions to literature and culture. How beautiful is that? Congratulations.
How lucky am I who never got a prize in her life, which will tell you, Kristen, that I'm circling the drain now. This is the end of the end. No, I'm teasing. I don't know. I'm just glad I could walk down those stairs without a railing. But I got the thing the other night. But I'm being flippant, and I don't mean to be. But it's so humbling that it really forced me to go inward and say, what else can I do? And am I doing enough? Because it's really something to be a Cavaliere, that honor in the arts from Italy. It's just a very big deal to me because that's my grandparents and my great grandparents, and my mother and father would be so proud of that. Sadly, what happens is you start to get these awards and they're gone.
Yeah.
So I kind of do it in their memory. And what else can I do?
Yeah. Well, you've honored them, and you've also brought honor to your home state. And I want to tell listeners about something else you've done that I could cry when I think about it. But you grew up in the Appalachia area where you've co-founded the Origin Project. And I love this because it is basically a school writing program that goes year round. And it has served over 25,000 students. And it only started in 2014.
That's right. That's right.
Amazing.
11 years.
11 years.
We published them. they're published authors at the end of every school year. And we sort of poached the Bank Street model. I must talk about Nancy Ballmeyer Fisher, who co-founded it with me. I was an office temp. She was a bond salesman, I think, at Merrill Lynch. And yeah, I was worth every penny of that $6 an hour, but she became a philanthropist with her husband, Ian Fisher, and they supported a lot of causes, Project Open Hand in San Francisco. And I called her. She always was a mentor to me. And I called her and I said, I want to start this thing in Virginia. She said, I'm coming. She got on a plane. It came when we were filming the movie. And I said, just nose around, see what you can find out. And we started it in Big Stone Gap. And now it's a statewide program. Yeah. But we raise private funds and we work really hard with that. And, and the businesses there are very generous. And we apply for grants as everyone does. But what we try to do is everybody gets a journal. We train them to write in their journals from kindergarten through 12th grade. And then we return to the classroom. We bring other authors in that they would never have an opportunity to meet. And now we work with the Library of Virginia to really penetrate like in the areas that we may not have been able to get to. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. And I remember when I was little, somebody bought me a typewriter, my great uncle Lee, who was a writer and a poet. And that one typewriter instilled in me a love of writing and reading. So that's what you're doing. You're making that connection.
It. Now let me guess, Kristen, are you writing thrillers? What are you writing?
Environmental suspense.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm looking at what's on your shelf. That's how I'm guessing. I'm looking at what's on your shelf and I go, those are her peeps. Robert Crace.
Oh, yeah.
Clancy. Uh-huh.
All our authors.
You got the A-listers. You got the A-list there.
We sure
do. You
got
the A-list. You sure do.
And speaking of which, that's something that you also do. You have this incredible podcast that has weekly episodes where you talk to these A-listers and you ask them, what are some of the books that really formed your soul and shaped you? Yeah. And what a cool experience that is. I've listened to many of your episodes, and the things that come out on your show are, first of all, very deep, but also eye-opening in some respects.
Well, coming from you, who I, revere with BOOKSTORM, I mean, the thing I love about these podcasts is you're getting different points of view all the time about people and what they think. And yours has been super successful because you're passionate about this. So when I talk to somebody else that writes, we're kind of got a shorthand. We can go deep and we can go deep fast because we have an understanding of what we're trying to do. So it's a gift to be able to do the podcast. I mean, I really enjoy it. It's a lot of work because like you, I read the books.
Yep.
And that started because I was doing shows. I've been doing this 25 years where people didn't read. And then I get on a television show and they go, tell us about your book. And I'd be like, oh, why can't you tell me about my book? I'm dying to find out. But that's no shade on those folks because they have 100 people a day on these shows, right? But I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to read the books and I'm going to pick who I really want to have on, who I really have questions for. And that's when you learn. And I think you do the same.
We do. We read every word of every single book. And, it's interesting, too, because some of what you just mentioned, you're bringing into the book tour for this book that we're talking about, The View from Lake Como. Yeah. And I'm really excited because as you were talking about going deep, you've got what sounds like almost a variety show of music and discussion.
Yes, Kristen, I'm so happy that you and Julia have noticed this. I am in show business, okay? Yes, I might be a writer and I might be a director and I might be a lot of things, but I'm in show business. It's all show business to me. It's about bringing people together, entertaining them, uplifting them, inspiring them, making them laugh. That is why I got into this in the first place.
Yeah.
And maybe some of my stories take dramatic turns. That's wonderful. I don't have a plan in that regard. I don't have a genre that you can slot me in.
Yeah.
So I'm just like paying attention in the world and saying what's needed right now. And I noticed a lot of things, like the average age of the American widow is 57. That's a lot of life to live without your partner.
Wow.
So how do we reinvent and how do we own our lives when people are so happy to put us in boxes and tell us who we are?
Yeah.
If you're older, sometimes it's your kids that do it. Mom, you can't do that. Why not?
Yeah.
I'm your mother, but I'm also this. You have your own life now. You don't get a vote, right? But I took this character right. She's on the cusp. It could go either way. She could be in that basement for 10 more years in her parents' house taking care of them, and she knew it.
Yeah. We're going to ask you about that, actually. I know Julia is going to tell you about your book.
I am. I'm ready.
I can't wait.
No, but two things that stuck out to me that we were just talking about and that I have mentioned to Kristen before we got on was it was so funny. It was very funny, and it wasn't that it was like comedy writing. It was just so relatable. I have a big Italian family. I'm laughing every page turn. I'm like, yep, that's exactly how that is. But then you snuck twists in there. They were sneaky. They were little life things, and it just made me think about how so much of our life is like that, where it kind of sneaks up on you and something happens and you don't see it as a twist. It's not, some plan that you could have expected, but they happen. So I would love to give our readers some context. So we're going to get into the, inherited family secrets and a self-identity and things like that. But I'd like to let them know what we're talking about, because we had the privilege of reading this book a little bit early, before it's published. So we meet Jess Capodimonte Barada at a very low point in her life. She is living in blue-collar Lake Como, New Jersey, and a place where family comes first, no matter what, above all else, above self. And she recently divorced Bobby Belancha, who was the perfect husband, the talk of the town. He turns heads. Everyone loves him. No one can understand why she got divorced in the first place. And she kind of moves back into her parents' basement to hide and to heal. And Jess is the overlooked daughter. She dutifully cares for her parents. She cooks Sunday dinner. She puts herself last in almost every regard. But despite her full-time job as a family handmaiden, she's a talented draftsperson in the marble business, run by her dapper Uncle Louis, who seems to believe in her more than she does herself. So when the families endure this sudden shock, something happens that makes everyone kind of question what's going on around them. The shock unearths long buried secrets that force Jess to question her loyalty to her family, who she has stood by for all 34 years. Fueled by this loss, Jess takes fate into her own hands and escapes into her ancestral home of Carrara, Italy. So then she goes from the marble-capped mountains of Tuscany, the glittering streets of Milan, and, to and from the shores of the enchanting Lake Como, both of them, and just begins to carve a place in this new old world. Until she meets Angelo Strazza, a passionate artist who works in gold, she discovers her own skills are priceless. But as Jess uncovers the truth about her family history, it's about to change the course of her life and those that she loves forever. Does that kind of wrap up, or do you have anything to add to that synopsis?
I want to read that book, Julia. I want to read that book.
You should. I can tell you,
nailed it. I mean,
loved it.
You got it. I mean, this is a story of a woman that is underestimated. Yeah, and I am going to present this idea to you two gorgeous women, which is, I think they underestimate every woman.
I agree with you.
I make it my business when I'm walking the streets of Greenwich Village and a woman comes towards me and I know what it took for her to put her look together that morning. I stop her and say it. You look like $1 million. Yeah. And they're all ages. It's never like one age or something. We have no idea how powerful we can be when we lock arms. We just don't know that as women. And there's a lot of divide and conquer that goes on. I mean, just look at a beauty contest. That's the biggest divide and conquer market on the planet. This one can baton twirl and that one's prettier in a bathing suit. I mean, what is this? Yeah. That's where my show comes from. I am touring with my brother. My other brother is the manager of the tour. We have a team. It's music. It's everything to bring these issues in a very real way to the audience where you will be laughing. I think I started out in the comedy clubs with my comedy troupe. And I'm somebody who doesn't like to work at night. I like to be done by 5, 6, 7, something like that. So I didn't pursue that. I became a comedy writer on television and then a novelist. So, and then as a director, I get in there and do what I need to do to bring out the funny in people. And I really decided with this, I'm going to blow out all the stops. So everything you just said about that character, I completely agree. And I would go one step further and say it applies to women of all ages, younger and older.
And at one point, your character, Jess, even says to her mom, people love to put people in cages and in boxes, and they really want you to stay there because that's what's comfortable for them. And her mother was constantly worried about the what ifs, the next catastrophe, what's going to happen.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Allergies. Go ahead, babe.
You're fine.
You can cut this together. Yeah.
Her mother was constantly worried about being what was going to happen, the what ifs, the next catastrophe, and what people think of her, and just everything. She was always worried, and it almost seemed like she was happiest when Jess was being taken care of and kind of suffocated.
Sure.
And when she was living in the basement, she wanted her in that basement, even though it was gross and dusty and musty, and there were things that she said, oh, you wouldn't want anyone down here because there's gas fuel leaks, and her mom's like, but it's great, it's comfy, it's cozy. But anyway,
No, you got it. You got it. Philomena is one of my favorite characters because she is the person through which the generational trauma is administered.
Oh, yes. She was a vessel for, I think, a lot of Italian mothers in that generation.
She couldn't get past the own injustices of her own existence.
Absolutely. And
this goes across, doesn't it go across all ethnic groups that the son gets the attention? Yes. I mean, a lot of my show is about this, not a lot, but some. Is my mother looked at my brothers like she was looking into the face of God, and then she turned to her 5 daughters, and there was a critical eye, your hair's not right. What did you use conditioner? What's going on with you? I mean, it was a different thing. And my mother was a great lady. It wasn't that she really learned it, but it's in her.
Yes.
Right? As it's in Philomena. And if you notice, as the novel unspools, you find out things about Philomena. She could get along with people. This is a public business. You got to schmooze the customers. You got to do what they want. You can't impose what you want in their bathroom on them. They're going to tell you. And then you work with their vision of it. And I loved that because a family business doesn't mean people are talented in it. Absolutely. It means they're going to survive by it. And I know if I sat and we talked about Civiletto family, we would start laughing because you have it what we have. We're all the same.
Yep.
And in the Italian way of life, you hold everybody close and everybody works in the family business. And but when you begin to talk to people in the family, you find out, oh, certain people are working harder than the others, or that brother-in-law didn't do this. And, and so it all goes back to Italy.
Yeah.
And the relationships people have in Italy. And, my dilemma about the business, about the marble business, which Jess is going to inherit, is it's fraught business-wise, but that goes back to the tax situation in Sicily and southern Italy, when they would overtax the people, Rome would, or Milan, I forget which was at that point, but they taxed the goat. They produced goat milk and goat cheese, and they were taxing them so badly, it didn't make any sense for them even to make the cheese anymore. So taxation without representation, classics, it filters in through the family. And then the family is fraught because of the outside forces that are playing against them. Jess is up against a background of history that's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Right.
And she's got to find her way through it. And nobody thinks she's got the guts to do it.
That's an interesting perspective, actually, because when I was reading, it seemed very much like Jess was going on this trip for her, like for her self discovery and identity and getting away out from under the family umbrella for a little bit. But I actually neglected to think about the context she was intaking, of the family business and why she is the way that she is and her family like that. So that's interesting, actually.
It's really interesting. Because we aren't just hatched. We enter a world that has already been created.
Yes.
And in that world, we have to learn a lot. We have to have self-reflection, self-reliance, understanding. Hopefully we're modeling or learning wisdom, which is the Uncle Louis character.
Yeah.
take a breath, kid, and look at this.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff that's involved, and there's money changing hands. It shouldn't be. And she has to decide what she's going to do. And she has a moment in her life where she could have some scratch. She could have some money. She could solve all her problems. And I'm not going to give away what she does, but her moral compass is tested. And she has to make a decision. And her brother says to her, who's a lawyer, are you sure? You could have all that.
Yeah.
I think those were
then
moments
where
that I
she
was
goes,
most
I
impressed.
love where she goes, which is to say, I'm a traditionalist, okay? I believe in this family, but you ain't going to tell me what to do, not one more day.
Yeah.
Not one more day. You can, but it's going to go in this ear and out the other one. I love that about her.
Yeah.
Now I'm older and I learned it. You have to just go, yeah. Great. Okay, great. Great. My friend Michael Patrick King said this to me. He said, listen, in matters of fraught family, pretend that you were the ice cream delivery person in the mental institution. How are you today, sir? Vanilla. How are you today, sir? Chocolate. And move your cart. Do not engage. Keep the cart moving. And that's what Jess does in this book. That's what she does. Keeps the cart moving.
And good for her.
That's right. Well, I'm going to go back to something you had just said, because throughout the story, we see in the Cap and Barada families that they're, we see their holidays, the way they celebrate. We're looking at their food traditions and all of these other things. But when Jess comes along, she does challenge some of those traditional notions of things. I mean, we've already mentioned she got divorced. So I wanted to ask you, because something that someone said to her was really interesting. They said, tradition can only exist in a state of change. Now, that's a very profound statement. And I was wondering if you'd expand on that a little bit, because maybe families should embrace those changes instead of pushing them away or rejecting them like her mother was doing.
Well, if you're adding any new people to your family, you have to weave their threads into the tapestry or you're going to fail.
Yeah.
So when somebody marries in from a different culture, they bring their culture in. This is what I remind people of. And Italy is the best country to be an example to this, a testament to this. Why is it everybody loves Italy? Why does everybody want to go to Italy? And why does everybody feel a little bit Italian? Because it's a country, think of where it's positioned on the planet, that Asia, Africa, the Middle East, the Middle Europe, Northern Europe, all came through there. And you can find throughout literature examples of this, and you can find throughout all of art examples of this and music.
Yeah.
And also in the fine arts. And then in the craft arts, shoemaking, leather. Usually if you had a farm and you had a cow, then you became a tanner, and the tanner becomes a designer and builds the shoes. There's an order to the artistry. Right. And I think the world relates to this. And in Southern Italy, there's a fraught kind of relationship between Northern and Southern Italy, but Southern Italy is where the juice is. Southern Italy is where the railing against the man comes in, right? Sometimes it's the church. It could be anything. But there's a sense and a sensibility there that all we do and all we built in this country is a shared global phenomenon. Yeah. We're Italian, but we're globalists. We want you all to come in. And you can trace macaroni to China, and you can trace this to that and that to this. Fortuny and the burning of the velvet and the silks. That's an Asian art. And so it goes through all of history with the food and I think it's fantastic. So to be Italian is to truly be a globalist, and it's to be somebody whose lineage reflects all of culture in every country.
Yeah, I love that. As part of my family is from Sicily, which my dad always thought was distinct from the rest of Italy. But there's a kind of there's a scrappiness, a practicality of let's figure this out.
There's Greek in there.
That's
there's
right.
Turkish. There's North African.
That's right.
The Sicilians are beautiful people, and they've been put upon too throughout history. So you always have that in a Sicilian family, where the Sicilian is born thinking they're not getting a fair shake, and they're not wrong.
Yeah.
They're not wrong. And they come to America and they do real well. This is a great country. And only in this country could any of us have ascended. Any of us, you know. And I'm sure in your home, as was in mine, immigrant was a word of honor.
Yeah. Well, at first in the 50s, a lot of people downplayed, you know, because of the rise of fascism. So they downplayed our Italianness. And that's why they spoke English only to one generation and gave them American sounding names. And now my generation, we look back on that and we think, be proud. What happened there? Why didn't we speak
Well, yeah,
Italian?
you find that. And you also find the really prideful ones, like my family. They were just proud. I mean, they had they loved their Italian heritage. And because of course I'm in between, I'm a little bit later, a little bit, or whatever you want to do it. But what changed everything for Italian Americans was World War II.
Yes.
Because we sent thousands and thousands of young men to the battlefronts, including in Italy. So you had to prove your allegiance to America.
Yep.
But something else happened during that war, which is not often discussed, which is there was a huge melange and mix of every ethnic group who had one common and socioeconomic group too, who had to merge together to go fight the Nazis.
Yeah.
And that changed everything. So you had Jewish kids next to Catholic kids, next to Protestant kids, and Southern, Northern, person of means, educated from the fancy schools to the kids that did not have a college education. And they came together in a common cause. And the Italians were set free in 1950. They really were. If you notice in art, literature, and music, I want you to just note the rise of Italians in beauty, in design. There was a thing called the Italian cut in the cars. Nobody made cars like the Italians, they will tell you. In matters of food, Chef Boyardee, Boiardi. It's not Boyardee as it is on the can. Put ravioli in a can. It became a thing to be Italian. It became a feat. It became elegant. It became honorable. It became a lot of things juxtaposed against the mob stuff. It's just interesting. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And the Italian community can take it. They can like let us have it, and we'll come right back at them. Well, what about this? And what about that? You know, which makes me an unlikely character in the world of American literature, doesn't it? It does, because they say Italian Americans don't buy books, and I'm proof that they do. Along with others. Thank God for them. Everybody that is an Italian American comes, but they're married to one, or they know one, or they're best friends with, and there we have it.
So in that vein, and something it just popped up while I was reading was the inclusion of the Irish. And there was Connor, and there, you know, you had Irish characters, and then you mentioned
I got a lot of Irish friends.
So, and then you mentioned that they had these family events where they had the Tuscan families and this family and this, and then the random Irish. And I was cracking up because my best friend is Irish and they have a very, very different family style. But she comes to all of our stuff and she's like, I collect the Italians. Like, there's so many of them.
You know, that's something that we fixed since the 50s is our Roman Catholicism. Yeah, well, look, in the United States of America, I mean, I made a documentary about it. You had an Irish bishop and he hated the Italians just because he did. We were brown before World War II. Okay, that's number one. So please, when you look at it, race, get a grip and understand what you're looking at here, that these are cultures that we need to embrace, not vilify. Okay, that's my number one thing. Then, as time went on, Irish and Italians married. And I think the intermarriage changed everything. And these beautiful, Bobby Belanch is one of them. His mother's Irish. So I look at the reality and write about it. I don't make this stuff up. And like you, I have an Irish best friend. I just think it's just natural. We share a lot of similarities. And also when you go to Ireland, the artistry and the people and the vibe, all of it is just very relatable. And I extend that into Scotland and into England too, because when I wrote The Good Left Undone, there you have that story. So they're all interwoven and there's an interrelationship there. I do want to get to my Middle Europe stories, and I will, but I haven't gotten to those.
You're building your world.
I'm trying. What can I tell you? I'm just getting started, kids. I'm just getting started.
I want to go back to something we kind of alluded to earlier. There's a point where, just like Morrow's mother, Jess has to come to terms with some difficult things that her mother withheld from her, or maybe even affirmatively lied. And I wanted to ask you, do you think that most young adults come to a reckoning point in their lives, maybe in their 20s or 30s, where they have to contend with what they learned in their family, or maybe what they didn't learn?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Family secrets they're the golden ring of literature. Family, people read the word secret and they got to read the book. What's a secret? And but when you discover a secret in your own family, something that you have no control over, I mean, you either have Illuminata, you're either like, now you figured things out, or you're angry. So people, there are many cultural reasons people keep secrets from one another. And there's also the subjugation of the woman. They don't want the woman to know too much, have too much, because when women get their game on, there's no stopping them. Look at your culture now. So that's all part of it. It's all part of it. I think when you find out things about your family, sometimes it's things that really are helpful to help guide your choices, to be bold. And I would like to point out that in this particular story, The View from Lake Como, that Jess does what her great-grandmother did. She just reversed the steps to find her home and her happiness and the place that she belonged. She just did it backwards.
Yeah.
Just inverted it.
Well, I love too that she gained perspective by even geographically changing and being able to look at the same thing from different angles, which is why I love your title. It's such a good play on perspective.
I wish I could take credit for it. My agent, Suzanne Gluck, came up with it. I mean, I had something similar on a list, but then she perfected it.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's perfect.
I like one of my favorite titles of a novel is The View from Pompey's Head by Hamilton Basso. It's a 1940s or 50s book. And I love The View from Pompey's Head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there were The View from Lake Como.
But here, especially when people are feeling stuck or in a rut or in a basement, having a big shift in your locale, sometimes that's needed.
Yes. Yes. It rejiggers you. Yeah. I don't take vacation, but I understand that's the point of vacation, not just to rest, but to reframe. Yeah. And so I do it in my work. I just try to do that 3/4 turn and look that direction. So what you're saying, Kristen, is really, really, really important. It's just look at it from a different point of view. Yeah. Just look at it differently. And then you go, can I do this? Am I capable of it? How do I see myself? I mean, one of my favorite little things in this novel is that she has a balcony on the piazza in Carrara. They say Carrara. I say Carrara. Okay, and you can see the marble. And when there's a point in the book where somebody observes her and she finds out that the people in the town said she's the artist on the balcony. To be called an artist when you've made your living as an artist, but nobody ever really considered you an artist. Yeah. It's one of those God wink moments where she said, that is what I am. And that's what becomes important in all of this,
Yeah. What I love about that scene that you're talking about is the fact that she was also newly experiencing the sun. It was warm. It was golden. It was bathing her when she sat out.
She was living in the basement. Spoken as somebody who's lived in a basement. It's hard. You can't get the sustenance you need. But when you're up high, the room can be teeny weeny, just as long as you have doors or a window to go out and get the sun.
That's right.
That's
That
the
was awesome.
great, that's the feeling that I would get when I read E.M. Forster, Room with a View. That's interesting.
Yes, it is.
That's the feeling I get when I read him, because all these Brits would come down and just like get in the sun.
Oh, I love
Good.
it.
Yeah.
No,
that's a great point.
That moment with her on the balcony and being seen as an artist too, she finally was given encouragement. And I feel like that was not found by anybody except Uncle Louis. And when she didn't get that from anyone else. And I don't want to say anything to spoil anything, but that moment I think was something that she needed to propel herself forward and really take that feedback and turn it into her new persona,
That's right. Other people see you, but until you see yourself and you say, this is my dream, and there will be nothing, no one, or anything to stop me, that's when you get it. Because even if you say you fail along the way, which of course I do every day, I fail all the time, I still got my dream. I hold on to it like a rope.
Yeah. Well, I hope you talk more about that on your tour, because as you mentioned, it's a little bit of culture, it's a little bit of comedy, a little bit of music, but I see those dreams infusing everything that you do. And so
it's going to be fun.
Oh, it's going to be fun. And now some of your dates are sold out, but I'm going to tell you, we are wishing you all the best with this book.
Thank you so
with the
much.
Tour. I know Julia has a burning question she wanted to ask.
Yes.
I do.
Thank you so much. Yes, dear.
So I know this one hasn't, been published yet, and you have your show and you're on the road. Do you have any idea of what's next for you in the writing world, or what we can look forward to?
Yes, I'm in a blizzard in this one. It's the winter, and I'm in the first chapter of it.
Nice.
And I'm in the snow, in a big car.
We live in the snow most of the year, so that's
it's
fine by us.
I love the snow. I love the snow. I find it so evocative, but that's where I'm living right now. And like when I go to sleep at night, I let the story unspool in my head, but that's what's next for me. And I hope to make the film of this. I hope to write and direct it.
Awesome.
I have another project that I'm working on. It's a movie. I'm always working on those things. I think you can tell that I just push till I get them made,
Awesome.
That's
without limitations.
That's right.
But it takes, but I just, each time I do that, I get better at it. And I think I'm ready to take this one on,
Awesome.
In all its beauty.
Well, we loved this story. I've read many of your books, and I think I told you this offline. This is my favorite for many reasons. It spoke to me, not just the Mapine. But I just want to tell our listeners too how they can connect with you. You not only are on tour, but you have a beautiful website, adrianatrigiani.com.
Yes, and the tour tickets are there.
There they are.
And you get the book with ticket wherever you go. Staten Island, Rhode Island, East Providence. We've got tickets left. We have some tickets left on Long Island. Those are going fast, right, Andrea? But Jersey Shore, we sold out. And West Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, listen, they're selling out. So get your tickets now. You don't want to miss this.
No.
I don't know how many times I'm going to do this. And this is going to be the one to see.
Well, I think you need to come to Buffalo, Niagara Falls area.
No, I know I need to get up there. And, my
do.
parents went there on their honeymoon. And I think you
Oh.
guys, yes. And I need to come. I want to go see the hotel, everything.
Oh my gosh. All right. We're going to connect on that offline. But
Absolutely.
Listeners, you can also find her on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads, and she has a Substack. She has a newsletter you can sign up for.
Yeah,
and
sign
of
up for
course, her
that.
podcast,
Good.
which is fantastic. Every Tuesday it drops. Again, Adriana, thank you so much for coming to
Thank
talk about
you,
your wonderful
ladies.
book.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Wonderful. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, she was so fun, and I feel like she's part of my family, our family. And there was just so much to talk about. Oh my gosh, words. I had made notes in my phone as I was reading, and there were just things that, we didn't have time for, didn't fit in naturally. But this book really snuck up on me. I was reading and it felt easy breezy. I was like, that's really relatable. The family dynamic is really funny. And it really hit me at the end just how much was intertwined with real life things that we face.
Oh yeah.
So
It was familiar and many
familiar.
levels. I loved
That's
it.
the word. It was very, very familiar.
Well,
And now we have to go back to Italy. So
yes, we do. What a fantastic interview. And I just love having her on the show because she shows too just that a force of personality and power and making things happen. You know, she has made things happen in her career, all deserved. But I think it's because she came into her own. She's found that identity of being a person who is an entertainer, a storyteller. She's very visually minded. And that is all something that comes through in everything she does. So I think people are going to love this book. I think it's going to do quite well. And we're grateful for this opportunity to talk with her. Now, I want to tell our listeners about some other fantastic authors that we have coming up. I'm just going to give a little sprinkling of a list because we've got a very long list, but we have Maggie Stiefvater, The Listeners, Chanel Cleaton, The Lost Story of Eva Fuentes, Caroline Fraser with Murderland, Chris Pavone, The Doorman, Susan Wiggs, Wayward Girls, Christina Baker Klein and Ann Burt with Please Don't Lie, Elma Katsu with Fiend. Now, several of those authors have been on the show before. They're coming back again and again, and that is because they are fantastic. We have a great time diving deep, deep into these books. Now, you can find us and all of these other interviews that we've done at our website at bookstormpodcast.com. We are also on Facebook, on Instagram, on X, and we have a fantastic YouTube where you can see all of these authors and us. We hope that you join us, follow us, and spread those links. And again, we know why you're coming. It's because your favorite authors are here on Bookstorm Podcast.